months this time. So we're creating a Ford Ka or KA and a Toyota Supra. So hopefully we won't have any of the technical issues that we've had today. It's a much hotter day today, so there's less wind and less kind of cool air coming in. So had to do some adjustments with the equipment, and hopefully it will work. Fingers crossed. Doing live. Hey, dear mate, you alright?
Yeah, how's it going? You alright?
Oh, I've had a bit of a mare of a day, to be honest, with technology. When it works, it works, and when it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Good. I'll just make sure you're on maximum volume. You're now maximum volume. Phone is charging-ish when it wants to. So, yeah, there we are. We're somewhere. We're working, I think, at least.
Good.
So, right. So, nice to meet you virtually. So, you're a friend through the mini. So I've forgotten everybody's name now. So, it was through the Mini Live, and you watched the Mini Live when I was doing the Mini GP, and you said, "Oh, could you do my cars?"
Yes. Yeah, it was Petrol Ped. I've known of your work for quite some time. I remember first seeing your work at Goodwood Festival Speed some years back, actually. And then in the pits and the paddocks of BTCC related stuff, because I've kind of been going to every round for many, many years. I've kind of been good friends with Aidan Moffat and the family, the Lacehills racing team.
Yep.
So we know them really quite well and know loads of people in motorsport. And I now race in the Enduro KA Championship. I race in other things as well. And I created and made my own little race KA, which is Enduro KA, built it from scratch to full-on race car, and then I basically started a race team as such off the brand of Peak Performance Reviews, which is my media channel, and I basically do the same as what Petrol Ped does. I kind of do manufacturer test reviews, media reviews, put my racing on vlogs and stuff on YouTube, and basically just vlog about cars and fast cars and just enjoy them. What's
going to happen? So you probably hope you've seen a few of the other videos and stuff. So. So hopefully what will happen is that this will go through smoothly this time, and then all this interview will be able to. I'll be able to send that to you as a YouTube video, and then you can use it on your channels and whatnot as well. So it's continuous cars, so I don't take the pen off the paper. So once the pen is down, I draw the entire outline of the two cars we've got here. So we've got the little Ford car and your Supra in the foreground. But I'm going to use that, because this is the image with the bonnet down. I'm then going to use that image as the details, if that makes sense. So I'm going to use So I've just kind of mocked up the two together there, and then eventually it'll look at something like. So that was Sam Moore's Porsche. That's the 240Z, and then you had the Porsche earlier as well. So they're some of the ones that are done today. So yours will be 271 out of the ones that have been done, and then they'll be scanned, and then they'll go to a book. So the book can be pre-ordered now, which is the Continuous Wheels book. So all of these drawings will feature in the book, and on the YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel, you'll see lots of videos of the cars being created on there as well. So hopefully your fans can see this, my followers can see this. You might see some comments in the thread as well, so you can read out those if you want to go along as well. But yeah, so basically I'll start drawing, but you tell me how you got into this automotive world.
Yeah, it kind of started. So for me, it started back. My love of kind of cars started from karting. Actually, I was like the youngest sprite, so to speak. Although later than a lot of other people, and I started kind of karting at around 14, so not super young. And then I kind of built up a four-stroke kart, and then I slowly progressed to bigger, faster things, and then karted in race leagues and stuff like that. So it whetted my appetite for kind of motorsport. And then I got into kind of cars when I could obviously drive cars, and I just felt like I really wanted to eventually race in, tin tops or race in cars. And I remember looking back when I was kind of 18, 19, and the financial, even though actually karting was really expensive, the financial implications of how expensive it is to get into motorsport, even at the grassroots, from just getting your race license to everything else you will need, like your equipment and more so the race fees and everything else in a car. It was super expensive, and it still is now. So it took me quite a few years of kind of working hard, and then I just got to a point where I watched a couple of championships, and I was getting closer to being able to financially be able to do it. And then I just said to myself one day, right, I think I've got enough money. I'm just going to go and get my license, build a car, and go race. And I got my race license, and I built a car, and I documented it on YouTube. It was an EP3 Civic Type R 03, stripped it down to kind of near bare. Built it up, put the cage in, done nearly everything myself as such, apart from tuning, and done a road to race car kind of YouTube vlog in 6 months. And it took me literally 6 months from almost bare shell as such, to going out to doing my first race at Snetterton, which is my local. And and I won my first 2 races, which was crazy in the championship. So it was awesome.
That's a pretty good start then. It was really
good. It's really weird because you can never tell how you're going to do. To think that you're going to go into a championship and win races would be arrogant, because you just don't know what competition you've got. And realistically, there's great people out there. But I knew from karting I had some pedigree in that respect, I suppose. So I was kind of winning championships, or always being up in amongst the kind of trophies, most race meetings, even with a low budget. So I kind of had a good feeling that I could do fairly well. And I went out, found a class I could race in with a performance cap, and it was called a GT 250 class, 250 horsepower, brake horsepower cap, and a weight cap. So you were only racing with things that were very, very similar to you, so it's very controlled. And we had some great races, lots of thirds, seconds and firsts, and before you know it, 2 championships 2 years in a row, my first 2 years. So in my class, which was awesome. Not something I necessarily expected. So I was really, really pleased, and it's just amazing, awesome, good fun, expensive but good fun.
So did that tie in nicely with your kind of business stuff then? Was that like that was kind of related to what you were doing off track?
Yeah, definitely. I think basically because I started doing that, and because of my racing, I just remember seeing some people kind of doing the whole YouTube thing, the vlogging thing, slowly but surely through different things that I was doing, just through kind of motorsport. I got some backing from manufacturers, and this was from even knocking on doors and wanting to do a kind of almost that Top Gear Grand Tour type thing. I kind of went door knocking and asking if I could do something, but established and set up a business. And before you know it, it took a lot of time, a lot of hard work. I built up a rapport with a few manufacturers. They sent me to some test days and manufacture testing, and then I started vlogging those car tests as such, and then it's essentially turned them into reviews, so car reviews, and it kind of worked really well because you get a more, I think, a more honest, I suppose a lower end honest approach to a car review. I kind of got involved with that, and then the amazing thing about it and the beauty of it was you can go from driving some of the most amazing hot hatches and every one you can think of to a supercar. So things that I never would dream of being able to drive, I get to drive quite often. Apart from now, obviously in lockdown, but it's been really, really good fun and worthwhile. And then, aside from that, obviously you put in a lot of money in getting equipment, but it's the financial reward is not so good for the work you put in, I guess. But even if it's just for the drives you get, it's worth it alone. So. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, there's what we do. I'm going to add your logo up to there. I'm going to because it's Peak Performance Reviews, isn't it? So what? So in terms of manufacturing, so what days have you done? Who have you done some stuff with? Who's are we talking like Nissan? And are we talking like more JDM side or?
Literally, it will be any manufacturer. What I've tried to do with my channel is because I'm trying to be true to myself. I've always been into performance cars, a lot of modified cars as well. So I do sometimes do some modified car reviews, but I'm into obviously, as you see with the Supra, obviously a modified car. But I've always been into performance cars, so I've tried to keep with performance cars and flagship cars in mind. So I tend to only review performance cars and flagship cars, so quite higher end, I suppose, of each of the manufacturers. But yeah, it can be anything from a Renault, Skoda, even like VRS, etc., to an Aston Martin. So it can be total, flip side of the coin as such, and different scale, in terms of financial cost for the car. But they're all performance cars, and I've got to a point where thankfully I get manufacturer invites. So we sometimes get invited to manufacturer launches, special one-off test days and things like that. So yeah, just get invited to media days and stuff like that, which is really, really cool. And then we sometimes bump into some really, really big channels. I slowly got to know people like PetrolPed through kind of finding yourself in the same world, in the same media circles, and we were doing some videos together as well. And yeah, before you know it, when I got a race team and I found out that PetrolPed had a race license, I said, right, Pete, come and race with us in the little Enduro KA. And he's now raced with us a couple of times, and hopefully he's going to race more once this lockdown's over. Fingers crossed. So
with the little KA, how did that come about? Because that must be quite a competitive little championship.
Yeah.
I presume all the how stock is the car? How much can you do to the car?
Yeah, it's an awesome. The story behind the KA was that I had done a bit of C1 race, and I actually raced even out in Spa in a little C1 championship.
Yeah.
So I knew it was going to be really, really good fun. I mean, they are, you wouldn't believe it, they're hardly any power, but they're so much fun around the circuit. And they're exactly similar to the C1s in terms of their modification. Very minimalistic, so it's got the safety features, like all safety cutouts, the roll cage, a good set of kind of like a basic race, but decent race Bilstein suspension, an operated set of pads, and then mechanically pretty much standard. It's there's not much on there. Performance-wise, there's nothing technically apart from the handling characteristic support you've got there. So you've got a 69 horsepower Ford KA, a little bit lighter than normal, but with half decent tyres and suspension and brakes on it, and they go really well. They've got great chassis, and yeah, it's just so much fun. But we got asked to do it through Burton Power. Burton Power were one of the kind of people that were around the actioning of getting the KA championship started with MSP. And I remember being at a track day, Burton Power, through one of my other cars, which is a modified Fiesta ST, and Andy Burton, who runs Burton Power, he's a good friend of mine now through Burton Power track days and through our Ford kind of love, I guess. So we got to meet him, got to know him really well. And one day after a track day, he started to say to me he was developing or wanted to develop a championship with MSV in little KAs. And they'd already raced in C1s with me. In their actual team, and they were like, we're going to do this championship, you should build a car, would you be up for it? And I'm like, 100%. And Andy and Burton Powell are one of my long-standing sponsors, so I was like, 100%, definitely I'm going to do it, and we did it, and it's just, it's been brilliant, so much fun.
So going to the so you got the KA, that's coming quite nicely. I've never drawn one of them before. I remember my mum had one when I was really young, when they first came out. And they were really cool cars. They're really the design of them and how they kind of worked were just really sweet. Yeah,
I think so. They were a very low budget car created to still really handle well. So there were no frills in terms of the way they were developed, but they were buttoned together decently. When you pull them apart, actually, you realise how much so, even though the materials are quite cheap that they use. But they're good little cars, and the handling's absolutely superb. So they really, really make for a good, funny race car, which is perfect. But yeah, we're into a lot of other cars. We've got a few others, and we've got something that I know you'd like as well, which is another car. I wouldn't mind you drawing maybe at a later date, definitely. So I'll get in touch. And that's our little Mini. I've got a little Mini Piccadilly,
nice,
an old classic, and that's an awesome little car.
Yeah. So now we're going to get onto the Supra. So tell us more about the Supra. So you're saying it's now running at nearly 1200 brake horsepower. So what was that? Just a project that kept on going, or?
Yeah. It's one of those. I'm terrible because I'm one of these. My friends laugh at me about it because I'll buy a car, even like my Fiesta ST, and I'm like, I won't do anything to it. I'll keep standard, and over the course of even. I've had cars before, actually, with like the Fiesta, for example. I'll have it, and before it even arrives, I've bought mods for it, which is terrible. So I'm I'm a serial modifier, which is really, really bad. Thankfully, I've got a good missus that allows me to do all that, so it's all good. But no, with the Supra, I bought it with the original twin turbos, and I had an intention to do a bit to it. I always knew I was going to do quite a bit to it. I blew a couple of different sets, or I think 3 sets of ceramic turbos, which they come out of Japan with. And I just basically had enough of these really what were quite brittle if you run a bit more power through them, a bit more boost. So I was like, sod it, I'm going to go really full out. I'm going to buy a standalone engine management system, big turbo, and like I say, it took it up to 600, and then 800, 888, and I got to a point where the bug had kind of bit me, and I couldn't stop kind of modifying it. So, but this time round with this batch of modifications, I did say that this was going to be the last iteration of what I do to the Supra, but probably won't be. But we'll see.
So this is the manual then, because the manual is more kind of sought after than the auto, isn't it? With the Supra.
Yeah, they're all starting to fetch really, really good money. Even auto non-turbos are starting to fetch 10, 11 grand for a half decent one. But now an auto turbo is obviously double that, and a manual turbo is worth now, if they're in good condition, they are worth a lot. Kind of a bit like they're getting to the point where they're not a million miles off R34 GCR Skyline money, which is obviously a lot of money. So they're great. I mean, I have no intention of selling mine because I love it. In fact, I had someone ask me the other day through one of our, I think, YouTube videos, and he was asking, or not name a price, but he was saying, do you want to sell it to me? You don't know whether it's legit, but he was offering a good amount of money, quite a tidy amount of money, but I still wasn't interested. It wasn't enough, I guess.
Well, I mean, the thing is that you can't get, if you wanted to then get hold of another one or something similar, you probably, once it's gone out of your hands, it's kind of, you probably won't be able to get hold of one, and you probably won't know the history on it, etc., etc. Yeah. So, because these kind of cars are so iconic because of things like Fast and the Furious and that kind of scene.
100%.
And obviously with the new Supra coming out, the name has back out there for a younger generation almost. So it's it is a car that has a history of modifications and being used for racing, and it was definitely a car that I bought on Gran Turismo when I was much younger and had time to play computer games. It was definitely the car and Castrol livery that I bought.
Yeah, the Tom Supra was very iconic, and again, it's one of the things I kind of grew up with Gran Turismo also, and for me it was the Supra was always a dream car of mine. I always tell this story to everyone. I remember being super young when they first come out, and I remember saying to myself, I saw one locally that it turned out to be a couple that owned it from new. So it would have been quite expensive when it was new. And I remember driving past it on the way to school nearly every day, and I'd see it every now and again outside of this big garage, lovely big house. And I remember seeing it, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to one day have that car. So it's a dream car of mine, and I looked at it, it looked like a supercar, and I looked at the price at the time, and I remember thinking, bloody, that's a lot of money, maybe I'll never be able to afford one. And then obviously they did eventually come down at the point when I could afford one at my age, even though they were still quite, really, really good money. I was like, I'd done with a couple of different modified cars, and I was like, right, I want a Supra now. It literally is my dream car. I drove loads of other cars before I even went down the Supra route, and I've never looked back. I've owned it for probably, I think, 15 years, and I love it. I I drive different cars every day, from hot hatches to supercars, and still to this day, it's one of the best cars I've ever driven. And actually, it's really weird because it gets a really... The Supra gets... I said this only the other day to someone, actually, on a YouTube comment, and somebody who I've kind of got to be friendly with, and I was actually telling him how well they actually do handle, and people don't realise actually how good they handle. But I think too many people saw, or maybe even driven ones that are bad examples, that had, you know, dead bushes, you know, the cars, you know, shocks and all kinds of like dead. But when they're maintained the correct way, they had inverted coilover suspension out of the factory, and they held G and slalom records for years. And I remember Tiff Nadell saying about how amazing handling they were. And also, quite a cool fact that I didn't find out until about 4 years ago when I bought his book. The ex-Stig, Ben Collins, used to own one, and he wrote one off. And it was a manual 6-speed, and he commented about how good and how well the car handled. Now, if the Stig, the ex-Stig, says that car handles well, it obviously must handle well considering what he gets to drive. So, yeah, I think too many people just drag race them and don't, you know, track drive them or road drive them and ruin them just by putting a dustbin sized turbo on it. And it sounds quite funny because I'm talking about my car being 1100, 1200 horsepower. I've actually created that car now with the new setup, believe it or not, to have very, very good, clever flexibility on the ECU. So I can basically, on the fly, turn the power down to a lower setting, which is about 650 horsepower. Obviously, still a lot, but it's very usable still on track and on road at that level with the suspension setup and the other bits that I've got on the car. But if you want to then go for something mad, and I turn up to like one of these top speed events, the VMAX event, you can turn it up to the full wick. So it's a very kind of usable, good, well-rounded car. And if I speak to you another day, I could probably show you the modifications list. It's literally like 4 A4 pages long of different modifications, of which a lot are actually very track-focused, track-biased modifications. So it's a very, very capable car that I take out on track a lot.
That's all. Yeah, I can feel the passion coming through from it, which is great. For that's what it's about. Is I mean, it's in that you've got a passion for an interest, and I guess on like the forums and on YouTube and stuff, people get in touch and find out what you've done to it and the modifications you've done to it.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched actually, and you was talking about, see, they do have a pedigree and heritage, obviously, from Super GT. What with the Tom Supra and Zent Tsurumo Supra had a lot of Super GT wins, and obviously it's passed over now to the kind of Mark V. Some people were not happy with it because it didn't have a Toyota heart. I was a little bit gutted, but I got kind of invited by Toyota UK to kind of go to the world launch of it, which was amazing, and I actually ended up putting a deposit down for the new one. I drove it to Thruxton and done a few things with it, and just at the last minute, probably 1 month before it actually came out, I cancelled my order, and it was just because there was a number of things that I weren't totally happy about, and I think actually also I think the price of racing had taken a toll on me as well. So it was partly financial as well. So, but yeah, I cancelled my order. So, but I did like that. I still do like the Mark V. I don't think they've done a bad job at all actually on that. I think it's quite nice. But I do wish it did have a Toyota heart. But there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is now is that modern version of it will be taken. That will kind of carry the name into the next generation of Supra. Yeah, you've already seen it with drifters and all sorts who've got that car and they've made it into, the body is a Supra, but underneath it is a completely different animal. It's kind of, I think, that car will always be modified and be a modifier's car.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's got that kind of name, hasn't it? And I think that's why, to some extent, maybe some people didn't like it because they thought, oh, if it hasn't got Toyota lung point in it, it's not going to be have the kind of heart and the authenticity of the what the Supra is about. But again, like I say, I don't think they've done a bad job. And realistically, people are still going to modify that car, and I think they already are. And like you say, there's drifters and big people, big names that have got that car and starting to do things with it. People that we follow as well. I think Tessa Whittock, you did. Have you done?
Yeah. Tess, did some stuff with Tess. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think she might be doing something with that at a later date as well. So there's definitely some cool projects out there and cool things with the Mark V as well. Obviously, they've done a GT4 version, haven't they, for British GT?
Speedworks. Yes.
That's it. Which will be awesome. So I'll definitely follow their journey and see what's going on with that. And certainly enjoy seeing Toyota back out there. And it does look really good in race form as well. I think really, really good. Yeah,
I was lucky enough to go out I was out in Japan for our honeymoon over Christmas and New Year, and at the Toyota World in there's a place called Toyota World just in Tokyo, just outside Tokyo, a bit of a tram ride out. And they've got a mate, like they have all the race versions of all the cars and the history in there. And the thing is that Toyota have such a race pedigree that their products race and are generally they can be turned from road cars into race cars, and that's kind of where it goes with them. And people have you have the base car, and then you can make it into whatever you want it to be, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's what the heart of kind of Toyota's always been about, and they kind of show that passion through what they kind of develop, and they kind of had a bit of a lull, I think, recently with sports cars, but they've kind of come back on the scene, which I think is really good. The racing's never stopped, which is really, really good, and I kind of always fly the flag for Toyota because of the Supra. I'm a massive kind of Toyota racing fan as such, so I like seeing them do well, and it's really, really good.
So in terms of you think, like you're saying, you've kind of associated with Aidan Moffat and the touring car team. So what other race that you into F1 as well, or is it just tin tops that you're into?
I used to like F1. I've not liked it as much. I do feel like the racing's not quite as good as it used to be in F1 since they kind of introduced too much electrics, and it's too much about the team with the most money, in my opinion. So I obviously love BTCC. I enjoyed the W Series last year. I really, really enjoyed the W Series. But British GT, I love Blanc Plain. Anything like kind of Le Mans, Daytona 24 and 24-hour endurance stuff is definitely. I've got a big love for that. Having done endurance events myself, so anything 24 hours, I kind of will be all over that. But you name it, motorsport, I watch it really. Even sometimes a bit of rallycross and completely drifting as well. Anything really, anything with an engine that makes a nice noise and whatnot, and I'm there.
Yeah. So in terms of the business, what's the business? So do you have a number of like customer cars that you deal with, and you tune and modify and whatnot as well?
So no, we don't do kind of anything like that as such. We just kind of do the car reviews and things like that. We are very hands-on, or I'm certainly hands-on myself as such. But and I do a lot of kind of hands-on stuff to my own cars, but never anyone else's. Just kind of driving lots of people's cars and trying to sometimes get modified cars to drive as well.
That's pretty. So what in terms of so what's been like, if you had like a top 3 kind of cars you've driven and enjoyed, what maybe 5. Whether they're manufacturers or customers or people who what's been the experiences that you said you went out with Toyota to the launch of the Supra. Where was that? What did that involve?
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, I'll give you some of my favourite cars. I'm normally, and by and large, I'm a very rear-wheel drive man. I like. I said this to someone the other day. I like cars that almost want to try and kill you. I like things to scare me. Hence why I've got a rear-wheel drive monster in the Supra. But I've driven the new Mercedes AMG GTR. That car was absolutely epic. That was one of my favourites. The Audi R8, even though it's all-wheel drive, I found that an epic car. But Audi sorted that out for me, and they made a rear-wheel drive version. They made a V10 RWS, which is super rare, rear-wheel drive Audi R8, and that car was absolutely amazing. So that was one of my favourite cars I've ever driven. About 6 or 7 months ago, I got invited by Porsche GB to drive loads of their cars fast around their test tracks in Silverstone. And yeah, literally blown away by some of those cars, because I haven't driven many Porsches, and that kind of made me realise how good and how an amazing chassis Porsche always create. So I drove the new 718 and the new 992 Porsche Turbo.
Yep.
And that was just, absolutely epic.
That's cool. And all these videos, are they on? They're on your channel. So what's your, just so everybody knows what is the channel?
Yeah, so literally on all social networks, if you just search Peak Performance Reviews, type it in, like if you go on YouTube and you just literally put Peak Performance Reviews, you'll see a random generated video, sometimes the one that they put on the top of the algorithm, which I think is probably my biggest video, which was the world premiere of the Supra, which had way over 100,000 views, which is amazing for me. But yeah, type in Peak Performance Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Drive Tribe, etc., and we're on there. But we do most of our things on YouTube. Obviously, vlogs and stuff like that, where we've got a lot of the media stuff, is better on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So yeah, we do loads of stuff on there. All of our car reviews are on there. Some of our motorsport vlogs, when we just go to a motorsport event and vlog that. Racing, when I'm racing myself. And even some of my hands-on video. I've just started kind of in lockdown. I've started this new thing called PPR Tech Garage, where I talk about specific things on a car, whether it be suspension, brakes, turbochargers, ECUs, tyres, how to strip an engine, and I go into kind of technical, relatively technical detail without being too advanced. So sometimes go into some advancement. Even about kind of ECUs and race fuel, and understanding the principles of race fuels and oils and all kinds. So I've been doing that in lockdown, so just to make sure that I can keep some good content out there. So I've been doing that while I've been in lockdown as well. So I've been keeping myself busy.
Yeah, that's the key thing. Yeah, so say with this, I started drawing. When we were on honeymoon, like me and my wife were drawing stuff every day. It wasn't cars. It was anything we were kind of out and about or in a bar or whatever, we'd be drawing. So that's really when I started doing doodles again. And I drew a few cars, and then when lockdown was announced, obviously I'm not in a studio like where I normally am. So I was like, right, what do I do? So I started drawing cars, and people were like, oh, I like that. Can I, at least for that, and then I started to get orders and whatever. So I think the flip side of lockdown and this kind of weird old time we've all been in is there'll be some interesting content, and hopefully some interesting things that are maybe continued after that maybe would never have been explored previously. So as much as it's been a weird time, hopefully some positives will come out of it as well.
Yeah, definitely. If you ever want to do, if you ever rack your brain, or I do also, and you ever want to do anything with us, get involved, and kind of if you ever want to do anything in cars or anything else you can think of, weird and wonderful, anything creative, and you've got an idea, give us a shout, and maybe we can do something else. But I definitely would like you to draw some of our other cars, definitely.
I'm happy to drive them as well.
You can have a drive, definitely.
I'll just find your logo.
Yeah, the only one I'm funny about anyone driving has always been the Supra.
I might. I think I'll settle for a passenger ride in that. So
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Definitely.
right. So I'll do your logo as a continuous line as well. So there's
Awesome.
the two cars so far.
Oh, that looks amazing.
Hopefully
That looks
that's
so
all right.
good. That looks so good. Love it.
So we've done that in about 40 minutes so far. So we'll just have the logo in the top. And yeah, so there. There's pens everywhere now. But that's how it is, standard.
Yeah.
So in terms of events and stuff, what's been your I believe you go and do Goodwood, and what's your favourite events that you've attended?
Yeah, I always say this to everyone. Do you know what? Because I think it's crazy. There's still people that I know that are petrol heads and they haven't been to Goodwood Festival of Speed. And for me, I mean, I love racing. I love actually doing the racing or even watching racing. So if you haven't watched BTCC, go and watch BTCC for sure if you're a motorsport fan. But for me, Goodwood Festival of Speed is just... I describe it, and I remember the first time I ever went to Goodwood Festival of Speed, and my literally within like 10 minutes, my hair's just stood on end. I remember walking around and just you'll hear all of a sudden you'll hear a high revving V10, then there'll be a rumble of a V8, and then there'll be something else spinning to 20,000 RPM. Then all of a sudden a bloody Spitfire or Vulcan will come overhead, or some Red Arrows, and it's just it's insane. Goodwood Festival of Speed for me is on another level to anything by a mile. But obviously, I like the motorsport events and racing, and the story of kind of like the British Touring Cars and being friends with the Moffats. Actually, my missus worked for the Laser Tools team, so but we knew them before that for quite some years. So we've kind of been friendly and friends with the Moffats for quite a few years, and the team obviously as well. And absolutely love the BTCC. It's just for racing and just fun. BTCC is just amazing. Love it.
I mean, totally. I really. I was last year. I was employed by Michelin to create at Goodwood, and it was, to create there and be there and be surrounded by it is just awesome. Like it's just the best. It's one of the best events to just because everything is there. It is just around. But in terms of accessibility, absolutely, I think touring car has a great accessibility to it. Unlike any unlike F1, which is you got to have the right pass and whatever. But like just this week, being able to chat to the drivers and enjoy all that has been brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like I say, it's an amazing thing to go to, and sights, the sounds, and how close you can get to such epic cars. Basically, like every car you can think of. I mean, like I said to you, I get to drive some amazing cars, but there's cars that you see at Goodwood that you just can't. You typically wouldn't see. You're not going to go down any high street, and you're not going to see a Koenigsegg 1.1 or Koenigsegg Regera or an old, Bentley. Just every car you can think of under the sun that is epic is at that show, and you can get really close to it and hear it, and it's just awesome. My missus actually just commented and said about the friends made through motorsport, and I totally agree. That's the beauty and the amazing side with motorsport. You do meet a lot of good people and a lot of good, friendly people, I find.
Oh yeah, totally. Oh, yeah.
That looks epic.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're nearly there. So so I just want to make sure the phone doesn't overheat and we lose this interview. So,
yes.
So I'm just gonna quickly I'll tweak this. I'll just give it another once over round, but I'll get it up to the camera so we don't. The phone has behaved. The ice pack behind the phone seems to have done the trick. So sorry to Sam, who I was speaking to previously. The phone was not happy, but it's a bit cooler now. It's cooled down a little bit in here, so.
Good.
So, I think so that is number 271. And so, obviously, artworks, originals are available to buy, and then you can the book will feature all the originals that have been done as well. So there we are, and just make sure I've got all the right bits in. Just doing that. Tweak that later. But there we are, 271. There is the. There we
That
are.
looks so good, mate. That is epic.
There we are.
Love it, mate. That's so good.
No worries at all. Well, thank you so much for taking part, and I'll get that posted on the socials ASAP. And yeah, no, it's cool to do the Supra and a little funky little KA, and there's your logo as well. So I might add your website underneath there as well. So
yeah, appreciate that.
it's a
Oh, man.
no worries,
That's
but
epic, mate. It looks so good.
well, thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
The phone worked, which is the main thing, and we'll catch up soon.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Cheers, buddy. Take care.
mate. Bye.
Bye.